Hi Summates, welcome back to my channel. It's Needles by Tiara here. In today's tutorial, I am going to be teaching you how to draft and cut this beautiful asymmetric hemline corset blouse with a stylish neckline as displayed on the thumbnail. So for all of your required materials, I am going to be leaving that on the description box down below. So with me, I have my pattern paper well laid out. Please ensure that your pattern paper is on fold. This is very important and crucial in this corset blouse making. I hope you understand. So like I said earlier on, please ensure that your pattern is on fold. So without no further ado, let's dive right into it. So first thing first, you'd go ahead to reintroduce your straight ruler and you're going to be drawing out a straight line at that point, which is equally going to serve as your shoulder point line. So go in with your straight ruler and go ahead to roll out a straight line at that point. So having done that, now we'd move ahead to impute the rest of our basic point measurements. Place your tape from your starting point line. Like I said earlier, your starting point line is equally going to serve as your shoulder point line. Now mark the distance between your client's shoulder to your bust point. Go ahead to impute that value. Next is the distance between your client's shoulder to under bust point, which is exactly what I'm imputing. Next is the distance between your client's shoulder to your front waist point, emphasis on the front waist point. And lastly is the distance between your client's shoulder to your hip point, which is basically what I'm imputing at this point. So having done that, to get the consistency and the accuracy of a straight line, I would go ahead to impute that value all over to this other point. So I am taking it over to this point and I would go ahead to, re-impute the values that we've already done. Your under bust point, your bust point, your waist point and hip point line. Now go in with your straight ruler and roll all those points into each other to form your basic straight lines. So having rolled out all of our basic straight line, now we'd move ahead to label our pattern. So this over here is my shoulder point line. This right here is my bust point line. Over here is my under bust point line. Over here is my front waist point line, emphasis on the front waist point line. And lastly, this is my hip point line. So please take note of all of those basic point measurements. Your shoulder point, bust point, under bust, front waist point, and lastly, your hip point line. So with that being said, now we'll go ahead to determine the distance between our client's shoulder to chest point. So to get that value, you'd go ahead to divide your client's bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So basically go ahead to do that calculation. Whatever that you have as the total value, you're going to place your tape from the shoulder point and you're going to chalk down the distance between your shoulder point to that value that you just calculated. I hope you understand. So mine is 9 inches. I've gone ahead to chalk it down. I'll go in with my straight ruler and roll that point into a straight line. With that being done, we'll go ahead to label this point right here to be our chest point line. I hope you understand. So with that being done, now on your shoulder point line, we'll move ahead to input all of our basic circumference measurements. So all of your basic circumference measurements is going to be starting from the folded part of your pattern paper, which happens to be the point that is facing me. So place your tape on your shoulder point, divide your shoulder circumference by 2 and chalk it down. Now whatever you have at your shoulder point, you're going to be bringing that same value down to your chest point line. So I have 8 inches at my shoulder point. I'll bring that 8 inches down to my chest point line. Go in with your straight ruler and connect that point into each other to form your basic straight line. So with that being done, I would go ahead to extend that point all the way in, which is exactly what I'm doing. So having done that, now the next thing we'd move ahead to do is to impute our neckline. So this is really not required. However, let's go ahead to impute that value. Your standard neckline is 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'll only mark 3 inches being the neckline width. On your shoulder point, come down at that point by 1 inch. With the aid of your straight ruler, connect from your 3 inches neckline width into your 1 inch shoulder slope at that point, which is basically what I'm doing. So with that being done, now place your tape from the shoulder slope down to your chest point line, which is this. Now go ahead to fold your tape into 2, which is exactly what I'm doing. Lastly, go ahead to chalk down the midpoint of that line, which is this. With that being done, still at the midpoint, come in further by 0.5 inch at that point. Lastly, on your chest point, go ahead to divide your client's bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down at that point, which is exactly what I'm doing at this point. So with that being done, now you're going to reintroduce your curve ruler connecting from the 1 inch shoulder slope down to the midpoint of 0.5 inch and extensively down to your chest point line. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. I hope you understand. So having successfully imputed your armhole at that point, now the next thing we'd move ahead to do is to impute our underbust tightening. So to impute your underbust tightening, you'd go ahead to divide your client's nipple to nipple by 2, which is your bust span, and you'd go ahead to chalk it down at your underbust point, which is exactly what I did at this point. Now you're going to take that value all the way down to your hip point and extensively up to your bust point. I hope you understand. So like I said earlier on, you're going to mark that same value on your bust point, which is this. Now reintroduce your straight ruler, connect all those points into each other to form your basic straight line, which is exactly what I'm doing at this point. So with that being done, now we'd go ahead to label our pattern. The folded part of our pattern paper is our center front, while this point over here is our side front. We have the center front, which is the folded part, and the side front, which is the non-folded part. Now at your underbust point, we're going to be imputing our underbust tightening. On your underbust point, to be precise, please take note, you're going to chalk down at the center front 0.5 inch, and at the side front, still at your underbust point, you'd go ahead to chalk down 2 inches at that point. Now you're going to be taking those measurements all the way down to your hip point, 0.5 inch at the center front and 2 inches at the side front. Reintroduce your straight ruler and connect all those points into each other to form your basic straight line, which is exactly what I'm doing at this point. So with that being done, now place your tape from your bust point and come down by 1 inch, which is exactly what I'm doing. Please place your tape at that point, come down by 1 inch. With the reintroduction of your curve ruler, you're going to be connecting from that 1 inch to the underbust tightening at the center front and the underbust tightening at the side front. Please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point. It is very, very important and crucial, and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. I hope you understand. Having done that, now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to spotting out that point, which is basically this. Now moving on from the armhole point, starting from the shoulder slope, would have to take the measurement of our armhole circumference at that point. So place your tape from the shoulder slope. Go ahead to follow out the curved lines of your armhole and take it all the way into your chest point this way. In total at this point I have 10 inches. I would go ahead to divide that 10 inches into 2, and that would leave us with the value of 5 inches. So you're going to place your tape from your shoulder slope and chalk down the midpoint, which is half of the measurement of our armhole, which is 5 inches. Now you're going to reintroduce your armhole curve. You're going to connect from your bust point into the midpoint of that armhole curve, which is the 5 inches. I hope you understand. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed. Ensure it touches the midpoint of your armhole, which is the 5 inches, and at the same time it touches the bust point. Go in with your marker and basically make your curve at that point. So with this being done, we've successfully imputed our princess curve at that point. Now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to impute our basic dart tightening for our princess curve. So to do that, the dart that we're going to be using in total is 1 inch. So we'd go ahead to divide that 1 inch into 2, and that would leave us with the value of 0.5 inch. So at the lower side of our armhole curve, we'll chalk down 0.5 inch, and at the upper side of our armhole curve, we'd go ahead to impute 0.5 inch as well. Having imputed 0.5 inch at the lower and the upper side, would reintroduce our curve ruler all over again, and we're going to be connecting from that point into our bust point. So at this point right here, I really need you to pay attention to the placement of my curve ruler at this point. It is very, very important and crucial. Just watch what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. Having gotten the lower side of the dart for our princess curve, Now for the upper side, which is the same 0.5 inch, would go ahead to connect from that point all the way into our bust point this way. I hope you understand. So with this being done, we've successfully imputed our princess dart curve. With that being said, you'd go ahead to measure out the dart that you have in between at that point, which in total is 1 inch. Remember, at this point, by the time we take off all the darts, we'll definitely have shortage at the lower side of our princess dart. So to augment for the shortage, now at the lower side of your princess dart curve, everything is going to be starting from the armhole point. I hope you understand. So place your tape at the lower side and come out by 1 inch. The 1 inch dart replacement that you have at that point, on your chest point, you'd go ahead to replace that 1 inch as well. I hope you understand. So with that being done, now we're going with our curve ruler and we're going to extend from the lower side of our princess dart to the 1 inch dart replacement that we have on that point. Having done that, let's go ahead to reconfirm the measurement. 1 inch, which is our dart, and at this point 1 inch, which is the dart replacement at the lower side of our princess dart. Like I said earlier on this point right here, since we're making a tube, we'd go ahead to place our tape and come up by 0.5 inch at that point. With that being done, now we're going with our curve ruler, connecting from the 1 inch dart replacement at that point all the way into the 0.5 inch that we came up with on our chest point, which happens to be our new chest point. I hope you understand. So please watch what I'm doing and do go ahead to replicate. Same for yours. So having augmented for the shortage, now we're going with our ruler and would go ahead to connect from our former chest point to our new chest point line, which is that point, that 0.5 inch that we came up with at. Moving on, would go ahead to impute our basic circumference measurement on your chest point like we did earlier on. Divide your bust circumference by 4, chalk it down, go ahead to replace that dart, which is 1 inch on your chest point as well. With that being done, on your bust point line, divide your bust circumference by 4, chalk it down, that 1 inch dart replacement, go ahead to replace it on your bust point. Now at your underbust point, go ahead to divide your underbust circumference by 4. Remember that we have a dart input at this point of 2.5 inches, which is our underbust dart. Now we'll go ahead to replace that dart on the side front of our underbust point. On our front waist point, go ahead to divide your waist circumference by 4, chalk it down. Remember that we have a dart of 2.5 inches. Would go ahead to replace it on the side front of our pattern. Lastly, on the hip point line, you'd go ahead to divide your hip circumference by 4, chalk it down. Now go ahead to check out what you have in between, which is the dart of 2.5 inches. Go ahead to replace it on the sides. With that being done, we're going with our straight ruler, connect from our new chest point into our underbust, extensively down to our front waist point and down to our hip point. Please pay attention to the way I'm making the connections at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So we'd go ahead to use our straight ruler at this point to make the connection from the new chest point to the underbust, from the underbust now to the front waist point. Lastly, with the head of our slightly curved ruler, we're going to be connecting from our front waist point down to the hip point line. So at this point, you're going to use your slightly curved ruler for this purpose and not your straight ruler. I hope you understand. So that is basically what I'm trying to do at this point, connect it all the way down. So having done that, we'd go ahead to smoothen out this point, your underbust and your front waist point. With this being done, we've successfully imputed our basic curve. Now the next thing we'd go ahead to impute is our side dart. So what is your side dart? Your side dart is the difference between your client shoulder to front waist point and your client shoulder to back waist point. So with that being said, let's go ahead to do the mathematical calculations together. My client shoulder to front waist point equals 18 inches and my client shoulder to back waist point equals 16 inches. So you could be asking, how did I got this value? I got this value by basically taking the measurement on my client. So you'd have to measure your client, the distance between their shoulder to front waist point and their shoulder to back waist point. With that being done, to get our side dart, we'd go ahead to subtract our shoulder to front waist point from our shoulder to back waist point. So 18 inches minus 16 equals 2 inches. So with this being done, it automatically means that the 2 inches right here happens to be our side dart. So our side dart in this case is 2 inches. So please apply this mathematical formula to your basic figures, and you definitely arrive at any value. So mine at this point is 2 inches. Yours could be 1.5 inches, 1 inch, 0.75, as the case may be. The value is not constant. It differs depending on the bust size of your client. So with that being said, let's dive right into imputing our side darts. So on your bust point line, please take note. At your bust point line, you place your tape on that point and come down by that value, which happens to be 2 inches for mine, for my side dart. With that being said, I would go in with my straight ruler, connecting from the 2 inches all the way into my bust point this way. So please just basically connect from your side dart into your bust point with your straight ruler. So with that being done, we've successfully imputed our side dart. Do not worry, we'll go ahead to eliminate the side dart as we progress. So basically now, at this point, we'd have to transfer all of what we have on this other part of our pattern to the other side of the pattern. So to do that, I am going to go in with my tracing wheel. So this is what a tracing wheel looks like. And I would go ahead to trace out all the points so that it can reflect on the other side of my pattern paper. But just in case you do not have a tracing wheel, please feel free to go ahead to replicate all that you've just done on this other side of the pattern paper on the other part. I hope you understand. So with that being said, I would go in with my tracing wheel and I would carefully go ahead to trace out all the points, all the curves, all the shape, all the darts at every given point. You must ensure that you basically go ahead to trace out all the points, which is basically what I'm doing at this point. So if you have watched this video to this point, it certainly means that you're getting value for your time well spent on this video. As a little way of encouraging us to do more for the sewing community, kindly hit on the subscription button, like, share and follow for more of this related content. So with this being done, I've successfully transferred everything that we have on this part to the other side of my pattern with my tracing wheel. Easy peasy, right? So at this point, we'll go ahead to basically open up our pattern to see what it looks like on the other side. Having opened up my pattern, I can see clearly that all the points are quite visible and clear. I don't know whether you can see that, but with that being done, I would go in with my marker to re-highlight all the points. And voila, we've successfully re-highlighted all the points by transferring what we have on the other side of our pattern to this point. And you can see it's sitting pretty clear on this point. So with that being done, the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to impute our stylish neckline. Please pay attention to this point. Now you're going to label your pattern. We have the right hand side, which is this, and we have the left hand side. So and the picture as displayed on the thumbnail, the asymmetric hemline, the asymmetric neckline is imputed on the right side of our pattern. I hope you understand. So on your shoulder point line, please remember, like I said, this is the right and this is the left hand side. So on the right hand side, still on your shoulder point, you're going to place your tape from that point and come in by 0.5 inch. So you're not placing the tape from the shoulder slope, but rather from the starting point, which is your shoulder point line. Having done that, on the midpoint of your pattern paper, go ahead to place your tape from that point. And now you'd basically go ahead to determine the depth of that curve. So you could do 5 inches, you could do 6 inches, you could do 7 inches. It totally depends on your preference and your client's option. So basically just play around with this. I am going to come down at that point by 6.5 inches. So having imputed the 6.5 inches, remember on our shoulder point on the right hand side, we came in by 0.5 inch, right? Now we'd go ahead to blend that 0.5 inch into the upper side of that our armhole curve. So by that I mean you're going to connect from that point into the armhole point. I hope you understand. So please just pay attention to what I'm doing. Go ahead to blend it all the way into that point. Ensure that it stops at the upper side of your princess dart curve at that point. I hope you understand. So with that being said, I would go in with my free hand and I'll go ahead to make my connection. So there is no particular way in doing this. You're just going to basically go in with your free hand, make a curve from that point into that 6.5 inches that you came down with at the midpoint of your center front line. I hope you understand. So having done that, now you'd go ahead to connect from that point all the way down to the upper side of our princess dart curve at that point. I hope you understand. So it is going to be on the upper side and not the lower point. So this point right here, you're going to connect from that point all the way into that 6.5 inches, which is basically what you're seeing at this point. So this is definitely what you're going to replicate for yours as well. So like I said earlier on, you're going to place your tape at your shoulder point line on the right hand side, coming by 0.5 inch, blend from that point into your armhole curve, which is basically what we did at this point. With that being done, now on the midpoint of your center front line, you're going to place your tape from your shoulder and come down by either 5 inches, 6 inches, 6.5 inches, 7 inches. It totally depends on your preference. So I came down with mine by 6.5 inches. And from that point being the 0.5 inch, which we imputed at that point, I went ahead to connect from that point all the way down to that 6.5 inches. And from that 6.5 inches all over again, I did connect it from this other side on the left hand side. Remember the princess dart that we have on that point? At the upper side of the princess dart curve, I would go ahead to blend it all the way into that 6.5 inch that I have at the midpoint. So this is definitely what you're going to be replicating for yours as well. It is very simple. Now moving on to the lower side, would go ahead to basically label our pattern. We have the right hand side and the left hand side. So now in a bit to impute our symmetric hemline at that point. So remember, like I said, we have the left hand side and the right hand side. According to the picture as displayed on the thumbnail, this is imputed on the right hand side of your pattern. So on the hip point line, we're going to place our tape and come up at that point by 3 inches for the right hand side. Now for the left hand side as well, would go ahead to come up at that point by 3 inches. So now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to overlap the darts on top of each other. But before we do that, place your tape on the right hand side and come down at that point by 1.5 inches. You could do 2 inches as well. Now going with your marker and go ahead to extend that point all the way down on both sides of our underbust dart that extends all the way down to the hip point. So with that being done, now the next thing we'd go ahead to impute is to overlap the dart on top of each other. Like I stated earlier on, according to the picture as displayed on the thumbnail, the asymmetric hemline is imputed on the right hand side of our pattern. I hope you understand. So like I said before, you're going to go ahead to overlap this dart on top of each other by folding one side of your dart on the right hand side to be precise. So you're going to fold it and overlap it on the other dart leg of your the right side of your pattern. I hope you understand. So going with your masking tape to hold it down in place. Like we did earlier on, we placed our tape from the hip point, came up at that point by 3 inches. And at this point, we came down by 1.5 inches. So that was only done on the right hand side and not on the left hand side. So now we're going with either our slightly curved ruler or our straight ruler, connecting from the 3 inches that we came up with at the hip point down to the 1.5 inches extension that we have on the right side of our dart leg. Please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So having done that for the right hand side, now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is on the midpoint of the center front line, which happens to be the folded part of our pattern, you're going to place your tape on that point and you're going to be coming up at that point by 3.5 inches, which is exactly what I'm doing at this point. With that being done, still on the 3.5 inches, you're going to come out further by 0.75, which is exactly what I did. So to ensure that that point is still correct, we're going to still further come up again by 3.5 inches. So that's basically to confirm that measurement. Having done that, we'd go ahead to take off the first initial 3.5 inches that we marked at that midpoint. Now you're going to go in with your straight ruler, connecting from the 1.5 inches extension at the right hand side into that 3.5 inch that you just imputed at that point. I hope you understand. So with this curve right here, you've successfully imputed the asymmetric hemline for the right hand side of your pattern. Now for the left hand side, you are going to go ahead to connect the curve that we have on that point. So just like we did with this other point, we'd go ahead to overlap the dart on each other as well. Having done that, remember we came up at this point by 3 inches. And at this point here, we'd go ahead to draw a curve connecting from that point down to the hip point line. Ensure that your connection touches the hip point, and from the hip point, you're going to flow from that point all the way up to the 3 inches that you came up with on the side front of the right hand side of your pattern, the left hand side rather, of your pattern. So this is basically what you're going to be doing. There is basically no standard measurement for this. Just go ahead to watch what I'm doing and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. Please go ahead to smoothen out that curve all the way down this way. So with this being done, you've successfully imputed your asymmetric hemline for your blouse. Now with that being done, we'd go ahead to highlight the points with our marker. But before we do that, we'd go ahead to take off our patterns, our masking tape rather, and we're going to keep our pattern the way it was before. So now please take note. Now on the left hand side, if you want it deeper, you can equally go ahead to connect it all the way down here, but I would advise you do not do that now. Rather go ahead to sew your pattern. Once you're done, you can go ahead to reshape that point. I hope you understand. So we do not want to have any shortage at that point. We must ensure it aligns perfectly before we go ahead to do that. So with that being done, now I'll go ahead to re-highlight all the points with my marker. Basically at this point we came up by 3 inches, so on that point we're going to further come out by 1 inch, which is basically what I did. Going with your slightly curved ruler, reconnect from your front waist point into that 1 inch extension that we imputed at that point. Please pay attention to what I'm doing and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. Having done that, we're going to go ahead to blend that point all the way out this way. So with that being done, go ahead to blend that point all the way in this way. So having done that for this part, now we'd go ahead to replicate same for this point. Come out by 1 inch rather. Reintroduce your curve ruler, connect from your front waist point down to that 1 inch extension. Now go ahead to blend that point all the way out this way, which is basically what I'm doing at this point. So with that being done, I would go in with my marker and I would go ahead to shade out all the points that I'm going to be taking off. So I'm going to be taking off my underbust dart, which is the point that I'm shading off. And I'm going to be taking off my princess dart that I have on both sides of my pattern, which is basically this. We're going to be taking out our side dart as well. So all the shaded points is the points that we're going to be eliminating off from our pattern. So now to take off our side dart, we'd go ahead to fold our pattern this way, and now we'd go ahead to take off the side dart. So to be able to eliminate the side dart, we'd go ahead to cut through the 2 inches, which happens to be my side dart, into my bust point. Be very careful at this once you're cutting through that point. With that being done, now we'd go ahead to cut through the lower part of our dart, which happens to be the underbust dart that runs from the hip point down to the underbust point. So while at this, please ensure that you do not pass the bust point. All of your connection stops at the bust point. With that being done, now you're going to grab from the lower side of the side front of your pattern, which is this, and you're going to go ahead to overlap it on the bust point, which is exactly what I'm doing at this point. Take from the lower point and overlap it on the bust point line. With that being done, like I said earlier on, please pay attention. Take from the lower point, overlap it on the bust point this way. With this being done, you've successfully eliminated your side dart. So we're going to return our pattern to how it was before, and we'll go in with our water gum. Go ahead to spread it all the way around. With that being done, we'll drag from the lower side like we did initially and overlap it on the bust point line this way. Go ahead to press it down. So with this being done, you successfully eliminated your side dart. So we'll go ahead to replicate that same process for the other side of our pattern and bring it back. So with this being done, we've successfully eliminated the side dart for both sides of our pattern, as you can see. Now we'd go ahead to, blend that point all the way in. So to do that, we're going to reconnect from the chest point down to the bust point this way. So with this being done, we've successfully eliminated our side dart and augmented for the shortage on the side front. So having done that, now we'd go in with our scissors and would go ahead to eliminate all the excesses that we have on every point. Go ahead to cut out the excesses that you have at this point. Please pay attention to all the points that I'm taking off from my pattern. Would go ahead to take off the underbust dart at the center front. Now would go ahead to replicate same for the side front as well on both sides. Now we'd go ahead to take off the asymmetric hemline curve that we have on the center front, following out the curve that we drew with our marker. Now we'd go ahead to take off the side front underbust dart that we have on this point. Go ahead to follow out the curves. While at this, we'd go ahead to replicate that same process for this other side of our pattern. So with that being done, now we'd go ahead to slash through from the lower part of the princess dart, taking it all the way down here. We're going to take from the side front, following the basic cuff pattern that we have on that point, take it all the way up here. Go ahead to eliminate the excess on this part. Now we're going to be cutting through following the princess start that we have on the lower region. From that part, go ahead to take off from the side fronts, cut out the side bodies that we have on this point, following out the curve. Please take note, the former armhole curve is no longer valid. This current armhole curve of 1 inch replacement is the valid curve. I hope you understand. So with that being said, we'd go ahead to take off this point. So with that being done, we'd go ahead to keep the side fronts aside while we work on the center front. Now go ahead to follow out the curves of your asymmetric neckline at that point. Go ahead to carefully follow out the curve, eliminating the excesses on every point, which is this. So with that being done, we'd go ahead to take off the princess start that we have on the lower region, take it all the way into your bust point for this part. Now we'd go ahead to replicate that same process for this other side of our cup. I hope you understand. So with this being done, our pattern is ready. So we'd go ahead to bring back the remaining part of our pattern. And you can see how beautiful this pattern, our corset rather, is sitting very pretty. You can see the asymmetric hemline, the princess start, the asymmetric stylish neckline. You can see the asymmetric hemline, everything about this corset is given at this point. So with that being done, I would go ahead to keep this aside while we work on the back pattern. So here's my pattern well laid out for the drafting of my back pattern. So just like we did earlier on with the front pattern, go ahead to roll out your straight line at this point. With that being done, place your tape from the starting line, which happens to be your shoulder point line. Go ahead to mark the distance between your client shoulder to bust point. Next is your client shoulder to under bust point, which mine is 15 inches. And next is the distance between your client shoulder to back waist point. So now referring back to the calculation that we initially did earlier on, remember our front waist point, our shoulder to front waist point was 18 inches and our client shoulder to back waist point is 16 inches. And I told you vividly that I got this two value by taking the measurement on our client, which is very important and crucial. So it automatically means that our client shoulder to back waist point is 16 inches and compared to the front pattern, which was 18 inches. I hope you understand. So we're going to be imputing our client's back shoulder to back waist point to be 16 inches and not 18 inches. I hope you understand. With that being done, now remember vividly on the front pattern we took out 2 inches, right, which happens to be our side dart. So we're now going to get the distance between our shoulder to our front hip point, which was 27 inches, and we'll subtract 2 inches, which happens to be our side dart, which will give us 25 inches. It automatically means that the distance between our client shoulder to back waist point is 25 inches and not 27 inches. I hope you understand. And our shoulder to back waist point still remains 16 inches as compared to the front pattern, which was 18 inches. So I am now marking the distance between my shoulder to my back waist point, which is 16 inches. And my client shoulder to back hip point, which happens to be 25 inches as compared to the front pattern, which was 27 inches. I hope you understand. So to get the consistency and the accuracy of a straight line, I would go ahead to impute those measurements on these other parts, going with your straight ruler and connect all those points into each other to form your basic straight line. With that being done, we'd go ahead to label our pattern. This is my shoulder point, this is my bust point, this is my underbust, and this is my back waist point, emphasis on the back waist point, and this is my client's back hip point, which is 25 inches and not 27 inches. I hope you understand. So with that being done, now I want you to understand that if you want to basically impute a zipper for your pattern, at this point you just go ahead to mark out your zipper allowance before you go ahead to impute all of your basic circumference measurements. But in this case, I won't be doing that. I am going to be using a corset back opening for this back pattern drafting. I hope you understand. So place your tape on your shoulder point, come down by the distance between your client shoulder to your chest point. With that being done, going with your straight ruler, roll that point into a straight line, going with your marker and basically label your point line. So this is my chest point line, which is this. With that being done, we'd go ahead to divide our shoulder circumference by 2. On our shoulder point, we'd go ahead to chalk it down. Now, whatever you have on your shoulder point, please bring it down to your chest point. Going with your straight ruler, connect from your shoulder point down to your chest point this way. With that being done, now we'd go ahead to impute our back neck width, which is 3 inches. Place your tape from your shoulder point, come down at that point by 1 inch, which will serve as your shoulder slope. Go in with your straight ruler, connect from the 3 inches neck width into the 1 inch shoulder slope. Place your tape from the shoulder slope down to your chest point. Go ahead to fold your tape into 2. Chalk down the midpoint. Still at the midpoint, come in by 0.5 inch. Lastly, on your chest point, go ahead to divide your client's bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down. With that being done, go in with your curve ruler and connect all those basic points into each other this way. With that being done, on our bust point line, we'd go ahead to divide our bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down. Now, before we progress to imputing the rest of our basic circumference measurements, on our back waist point, emphasis on the back waist point, would go ahead to impute our basic darts. So this is equally optional. You can decide to impute your darts for your back pattern or not. So for the sake of those who would want to, on your back waist point, divide your nipple to nipple by 2 and chalk it down. Bring it up to your bust point as well. Now place your tape from your back waist point. Come down at that point by 5.5 inches, which is this. With that being done, now you'd go in with your straight ruler and connect all those points into each other to form your basic straight line. Now before we proceed on, label this point to be your center front and this point to be your side front. At your back waist point, you're going to be imputing 1 inch in total for your darts. By that, you're going to be imputing 0.5 inch on the center front and 0.5 inch at the side front of your back waist point. Go in with your straight ruler. Connect from that point all the way up to your bust point on both sides and all the way down to that 5.5 inches, which happens to be the length of your dart. So please, at this point, just basically watch what I'm doing and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. I hope you understand. Having imputed our dart at this point, now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to impute all of our circumference measurements. Our bust circumference divided by 4, our under bust circumference divided by 4. Go ahead to measure out the dart that you have on that point and replace it. Your back waist point divided by 4, measure out the dart and replace it. Lastly, on your hip point, divide your hip circumference by 4, chalk it down at that point. Still at your hip point, you're going to further come out by 1 inch. With that being done, go in with your straight ruler and connect all those points into each other to form your basic bodice curve. Please pay attention to what I'm doing at this point and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. I hope you understand. Going with your marker and smoothing out that curve this way. So having done that, now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is place your tape from your shoulder point. Go ahead to determine the depth of your yoke. So you're going to go ahead to either mark 8 inches, 7 inches as the case may be, but it is advisable that the depth of your yoke for your back pattern must be deeper than that of your front pattern. So I'm going to be using my chest point as the depth of my yoke. I hope you understand. Now, just like we did with the front pattern, on your chest point line, come up at that point by 0.5 inch and take it all the way into your patterns this way. So with that being done, we'd go in with our straight ruler and connect all those points into each other, extend this point all the way up. So we'd go ahead to label this part to be our new chest point, which is our now valid chest point. I hope you understand. Now with that being done, we'd go ahead to extend from our bust point all the way up and from this 5.5 inches all the way down. Having done that, like I told you earlier on, we're going to be imputing a corset back opening. So to do that, on the new chest point, we're going to chalk down 1.5 inches or 1 inches and we're going to basically take it all the way down to our hip point this way. Go in with your straight ruler and connect all those points into each other to form your basic straight line. So with that being done, I would go ahead to impute a dot on this point to show you that you're going to be attaching your eyelets to this point. I hope you understand. So with that being said, you can decide to leave this part to be straight or you could make a slanted curve at that point. So to impute a slanted curve, place your tape on your new chest point line and come down at that point by 0.5 inch. With that being done, go in with your straight ruler, connect from that 0.5 inch into your new chest point. I hope you understand. Basically, watch what I'm doing and go ahead to replicate same. So you can decide, like I said earlier on, to use the straight part of that point or to use the, a bit of a stylish, slanted curve at that point. Either way is very much okay. Just like we did with the front pattern, come up on your hip point by 3 inches. Remember, we did this for the front pattern, so we must do this for the back pattern as well. Still on that 3 inches point, you're going to further come out by 1 inch at that point, which is exactly what I'm doing. Now reintroduce your slightly curved ruler, reconnect from your back waist point into that 1 inch extension that you have on that point. I hope you understand. So with that being done, we're going to place our curve ruler and we're going to be reconnecting from that 1-inch extension all the way into our pattern this way. So please pay attention to the way my slightly curved ruler is being placed at this point, and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. I hope you understand. So with that being done, you'd go ahead to bring the side front of our front pattern, align it on the side front of our back pattern, ensuring that all the points align perfectly, the new chest point and that 1-inch extension at that point, it must align perfectly. So with that being done, we'd go ahead to keep it aside while we go ahead to take off all the excesses. So this point that we're shedding off is the point that we're going to be taking off, which happens to be our corset back opening and of course our dart at that point. So with that being done, now we'd go ahead to take off all the parts that we've shaded off. So we're going to go in with our scissors and we'd go ahead to cut through, eliminating all the excesses at this point. So please pay attention to the part that I'm taking off from my pattern, and please do go ahead to replicate same for yours. I hope you understand. So having eliminated all the side excesses, now the next thing we'd go ahead to do is to detach the yoke from the lower base of our blouse. So to do that, I am going to take from the 0.5 inch that I came down with at that point into my new chest point, which is exactly what I'm doing. So we do not have any need for the yoke. I would go ahead to keep that aside. Now moving on to the lower part of our base, we're going to go ahead to eliminate the corset back opening that we have at this point. Take it gradually all the way up this way. So having eliminated the corset back opening, now like I said earlier on, you could decide not to impute your dart, or you could equally decide to impute your dart. So for the sake of those who would want to impute a dart, I've gone ahead to impute the dart at this point. So you'd go in with your marker and make an arrow at that point, basically to serve as a guide. So with that being done, you're going to cut through from the lower part, following the midpoint of that line all the way up to your chest point line. So with that being done, we'd go ahead to eliminate the dart that we have on the center front. Go ahead to gradually take it all the way down here. Having done that for the center front dart, now for the side front dart, we'd go ahead to replicate that same process. Take from this point up to your waist point and extensively up to your chest point this way. So with this being done, we've successfully eliminated our dart. You can see how beautiful our back pattern is looking at every given point. This is definitely what you're going to achieve, and voila, our pattern is ready. Look at how beautiful both our back pattern and our front pattern came out looking. Everything about this pattern is giving what it ought to give. You can see the asymmetric hemline that we have at that point. You can see our stylish neckline, the asymmetric hemline, like I said earlier on. You can see how the both curves on the both sides front flows evenly down, and you can see our well imputed eliminated dart on the waist region for the back pattern. You can see how every point flows evenly on every side. This is the consistency and the accuracy you'd want to achieve having followed through the process, and of course you've gotten it right. So please kindly take note, we have not imputed all of our basic allowances for our pattern. So on this point, you'd go ahead to impute 2 inches on both sides. So whatever you're going to use for the side seam of your front pattern, you'd go ahead to use that same side seam on your back pattern. 2 inches for the front pattern and 2 inches for the back pattern on the side seam. At this point, you're going to go ahead to add 0.5 inch all the way round. Now on the bust point region, you're going to be imputing 0.5 inch from this point all the way down. 0.5 inch on this point all the way up here, 0.5 inch all the way down, 0.5 inch all the way up here. Now at the hemline, at the asymmetric hemline, you're going to be imputing 0.5 inch all the way round so as to be able to turn it up with your lining. Now to the back pattern, you're going to be imputing 0.5 inch on both sides of that dart length. On this point, 0.5 inch, 0.5 inch and 0.5 inch all the way round. Now on the side, like I said, whatever you're going to impute as the side seam allowance for your front pattern, go ahead to use same for your back pattern. I hope you understand. So with this being done, we've come to the end of the drafting of our beautiful corset blouse with our stylish neckline and asymmetric hemline. Up next on my channel is going to be the sewing part of this beautiful corset. So if you're interested in learning how to sew this beautiful asymmetric hemline blouse with a stylish neckline, kindly hit on the subscription button to be the first to get notified once the video drops on our channel. Thank you, and I'm going to be seeing you on my next video. Bye!